Good morning, everyone. I just want to share a few verses from Deuteronomy chapter 22. And this is within the law of Moses, which at times, to be honest, it can be a tough read, especially as living in Britain in the 21st century. And there are certain things where you think, how applicable is this to me? But what I saw the other day, I was actually reading Deuteronomy 22, verses 1 to 4, and it's actually about an ox, a sheep, and a donkey. You might think, how on earth does that apply to us? But what we see, I guess, in a lot of the law is this undercurrent of the law of love, and when we know that Jesus summed up the law as being about love, loving God, number one, and loving our neighbours as ourselves, and we really see this in Deuteronomy 22, and it really stuck out to me as I read it the other day. Verse 1 says, "You shall not see your brother's ox or his sheep going astray, and hide yourself from them. You shall certainly bring them back to your brother. And if your brother is not near you, or if you do not know him, then you shall bring it to your own house, and it shall remain with you until your brother seeks it. Then you shall restore it to him. You shall do the same with his donkey, and so you shall do with his garment. With any lost thing of your brother's which he has lost, and you have found, you shall do likewise. You must not hide yourself. You shall not see your brother's donkey or his ox fall down along the road and hide yourself from them. You shall surely help him lift them up again." So it's a passage that's speaking about if you're out and about and you see one of your brothers or friends' oxes, sheep, donkey, piece of clothing, if you see it on the road, you're meant to do something about it. You're meant to get it and look out for your brother, look out for your neighbour by taking that lost property in. There's a phrase that really stuck out to me as I read through these verses, and it's this phrase that's repeated 3 times in those 4 verses, talking about how you should not hide yourself back. You should not hide yourself from them. And there's a tendency to, when there's an opportunity to do the right thing, to do the good thing, it's very easy to hide yourself, to kind of just turn a blind eye. And you see it so clearly in the parable of the Good Samaritan, how these people saw a guy lying at the side of the road, and God's people, supposedly God's people, they saw this guy and turned a blind eye. They hid themselves, and they were probably people who professed to know the law very well, but they didn't know the law of love. And the law of love is not just proactively doing good things, but it's doing the right thing and not doing nothing, which is what this law is instructing us about here. I remember when I was younger, and maybe still now, maybe in school, when you found something, all you needed to say was, "Finders keepers, losers weepers," and you were able to take whatever it was you found. That is a very, although it's a commonly well held practice, probably worldwide, it's a very selfish thing. Because here, God's saying, actually, when you find something, you're not the keeper. When you find something, you need to give it back. And it goes much broader. It's this idea of not doing nothing, or the sin of omission, as some people might call it. That we have a responsibility as God's people to do the right thing when we see a need, and to show love, and to treat people as we would want to be treated. And I think that's what's going on here. If we lost something, if we had a problem, we would want to be treated in a certain way. And that's what God's saying here through his law, through an ox and a sheep and a donkey. If we see a need of somebody else, if we find something of somebody else, if we know that someone can be blessed by us doing something, then we should do it. Not hide ourselves, not ignore it. How that plays out, and it could play out in many different ways in your days. But just remember that. Do not hide yourself. Do the right thing. Do good to your neighbour. Thank you. I'm going to pray, and then we'll end this video. Father God, I thank you for your word. Thank you for the simple truths Lord, just spread throughout it, even in this somewhat in the Old Testament law, which somehow can be hard to apply to our own lives, God, that there is a message of love underneath it all. And I pray that we would be loving and kind to our neighbours. We would be loving and kind to one another. Not hide ourselves, but do the right thing. I pray in your name. Amen.